Hey y'all, it's Mayan Shaw with RVMax.us, and today we've got a special treat. So this is going to be a how-to kind of operational video for Scotty, who's buying this coach behind me. But in this situation, we've got a special guest who knows a whole lot about coaches and is a special friend of us here at RV Max. What's up, James?
How you doing, everybody?
Good. Good seeing you, man.
You brought me in here, do an inspection, and do a walkthrough on this. It's a beautiful Liberty. I'm really excited to show it to you guys. It's everything that you would expect a luxury motor coach to be. And then, of course, a little bit more.
Yes, and I've got to run, unfortunately, so I'm going to let James take over from here.
If you can check back in later, that'd be great. I'll even try to get your dad to help us out a little bit, too.
Perfect.
Do the walk around on it.
Sweet. You got to keep him contained.
I don't think anybody can keep him contained. All right, so we're doing a 2002 Elegant Lady.
Yep.
Liberty Motor Coach XL2 chassis.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful one. All right. Normally what we do when we start a walkthrough, we kind of start at the front, we'll work our way around, then we'll work from the front to the back when we go inside. That way I try to cover everything without forgetting things because I am prone to doing that. So at that, let's go ahead and start right here. All right. Coming in the front door right here, this is going to be kind of the master control panel, so you can do your outside lighting, your main switch to turn all the lights on or off. The Tivoli master is going to be the decorative bead lights or indirect lights, then your cargo lights. Pretty straightforward, and you can lock and unlock the bay doors right here. These are going to be really important ones for those compartment doors. When it comes to your tires, you should check your tire pressures at least once a month or before every trip. You can never go wrong by not exceeding the maximum printed on the side of the tire right there. On your compartment doors, when they're unlocked, just flip up the handle right there. Underneath a convenient little handle. Try to resist the urge to lift up by that. It will start to bend over time. Now on these compartment doors, if the struts become weak on this side, you have an emergency latch on it. Just pull that on it and it'll flip up and lock into place right there. Don't forget to unlock it before you go to close the door. Your basement slider is pretty straightforward. Just lift up on the handle right there. It slides right out. You can see even easier on the toolbox. It slides out. Right above is going to be more storage drawers. And I think even on the back of this door, you have more storage for your folding chairs. Right here's just going to be outside storage. This is going to be an important one to know about on a Liberty. Usually the house batteries are located right behind this bulkhead here. So you have to take the screws out. It's always a good idea to not screw anything on any of these bulkheads. Just assume, especially when we get further back, that there's a fuel cell back there. We don't want to screw into the actual fuel tank. We're going to skip this door for now. This is going to be where you fill up that fuel tank, the fuel cell we're talking about. You have a fuel neck on this side and another one on the driver's side. It's the exact same tank. There's only one tank. Now the generator and your hydronic heat run off the same fuel from the same tank as the engine. They will generally run out of fuel about a quarter tank, so you don't run yourself stranded. That last quarter tank should always be reserved for the engine so you can get to the fuel station. On a Liberty, you're going to have passenger and driver's side service bays. Right back here is going to be your auxiliary sewer hose dump. Now, Liberty likes to use a Thetford 2-pin square sewer hose adapter. So it's not the industry standard 4 rounded pin. It's 2 square pins. You can get an adapter for it, but to hook up to that sewer hose, the cap's going to be right down here. Just undo it, and that's where you're going to hook the sewer hose. The main sewer hookup's going to be on the other side, though. This is going to be your whole house water filters. There's cartridge filters. Usually one's going to be a sediment filter. The other one will be an activated charcoal filter. You can pick it up at any hardware store. It is not RV specific in any way. Just make sure the water pressure is off, both the water pump and the city water connection, before you unscrew those. Right here is your water pump. This is a high capacity, high volume water pump. It runs on 110 power. So you either have to run the generator, be plugged in, or have the inverter on for your water pump to work when you're dry camping. Right next to it, this big thing right there is your fresh water tank. There's a few ways to fill it up. One of the easiest ways is right here. There's a little bung hole. You can unscrew this right here. And you can put a garden hose right in there to fill it up. That's going to be your gravity fill. Just pulls it out right there. Put the garden hose in right there. It's also a good way to sanitize the tank if you ever need to. Liberty's the only one that uses a stainless steel holding tank. Further back here, you have another set of water filters. That's going to be for drinking water and the ice maker. And your ice maker shutoff valve is located right there. if you're going to be winterizing or if you need to shut it off for servicing the refrigerator. Hidden way back here is the water heater. Now this is a marine type water heater. It has a 20-gallon capacity, so you can make hot water using 120 volt, either from the generator or from being plugged in. But it also has, because it's a marine one, it uses the hydronic heater to circulate antifreeze or coolant through there to heat up the water there too. Otherwise, this is where your freshwater tank is going to drain. You have your freshwater dump valve right there. It'll just drain straight onto the ground. It's important to know on your sewer dump and your freshwater dump, it is air driven, so you need to have air pressure built up, engine running, or the air compressor turned on, the 120 volt air compressor. I'll show you how to do that on the inside. Otherwise, these are just shut off valves for the outside shower. It's a nice data plate right here that almost tells you everything I just told you. And this is going to be your auxiliary monitor panel. You turn those on over here. It'll tell you how full your tanks are for your freshwater tank and your holding tank. Now remember, on a Liberty only has one wastewater tank, so it's a black tank. All drains drain into the one tank. So you're going to be operating the starboard dump, that dump valve right there, hook up the sewer hose, hit that valve with air pressure. It'll drain out the freshwater tank. There's just a warning light, let you know the valve is open. Same for the freshwater tank. And then right here, with those turned on and your city water hooked up, you can go ahead and hit that tank fill, and that's how you can hook up or fill the freshwater tank. Now, hidden way over here is an auxiliary city water connection. So this is not the main one. Most RV sites are going to have the sewer and water over on the driver's side. But if you have a hose bib over here, you can hook up a water hose right there. There's a ball valve. Just turn that on. And that's your city water connection on this side. That's just to pass through to put the hose up so you don't have to leave the door open. Now hidden right here is another auxiliary shore cord connection. This is a marine type. You would just plug it in and put it on. It means you don't have to use the hose or the power cord reel in the back. Right above, push button turns on your little docking light or service light for this area. And of course, one of the last most important features is going to be on your tires. You have two sets of axles here. The front axle is a dually. This is your drive axle that actually is powered by the transmission and the engine. The one behind it is your tag axle. It is not driven by the engine whatsoever. It's just passive. It's important to know that because there's going to be a lever up front. I'll show you how to dump the tag axle to make maneuvering at slow speeds a lot easier. All right, to access the engine bay, what you're going to do is on the driver's side right here, unlatch it. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a green sticker right here with an arrow pointing at it. That's going to be the release for the rear door. Just pull back on it and then open up the other side. Now these doors, they're going to lock into position once they're all the way open. Close it, you have to pull out on the little latch right there. Right here's just going to be your engine oil dipstick. Check that with the engine turned off. Right down here is the transmission dipstick. You're going to unscrew it, pull it out. Check that with the engine running. Right next to it, this is a fill port for the engine, but over here is a storage tank for engine oil. You can fill it up with about 8 liters of engine oil. And if you want to add oil, there's a valve right here. Just go straight down into the oil pan. But this is just for oil storage. This right here is just the PTO tension relief. You probably won't be using that because you'll only do that when you're changing out the PTO belts. Otherwise, directly over right here, you have your rear start switch. So the down position, that's the normal position. If you're going to be back here working, you can turn to the off position. That'll keep the engine from starting. If you want to start it from the back, move it to the start position. Down below is the start button. Once you're done using this, bring it back to normal. It's very important because if you forget and you go up front to start the engine and it doesn't start, you'll get a service call. Somebody will charge you about $400 to move that switch to the normal position and then walk away. Over here is just going to be a service access for the chassis electronics. These are all going to be circuit breakers. This is really just all Prevost chassis related components. Really nothing.
And they're resettable, right? If
they are resettable right there.
Popped out.
So if it is popped out, you push it in to reset it.
Perfect.
Now after that, the next most important thing right here that's kind of hidden and out of the way is right here. That's your engine coolant reservoir. It is pressurized, so if the engine is hot, do not take the cap off right here. But hidden right over here is a sight gauge.
It's like a glass, right?
Yeah, it's a sight gauge, so you can see. So if you can see coolant in there, you're filled. You don't need to worry about adding coolant. But it's going to be very important that you keep coolant filled up on this.
So, James, tell us one thing. What do you think about Detroit Series 60?
Best build engine you can get on
Yes.
a motorhome.
Isn't it? Yep, yep. Hey, you just did a little walkthrough on that 97 Vogue, the old classic back there. Yeah, well, and it's got
beautiful.
the same motor with like 69,000 miles. This one's got
These
like
XLs
90.
and XL2 chassis are my favorite.
Solid tank.
Yeah, but you can't beat the timeless appeal of the stainless steel on the outside. Now to lock these doors, you're just gonna kind of
Shut it.
just like
There
that.
you go.
The other side of the engine bay is going to be right here. There's not going to be a lot of service points on it. This is the air filter for the engine. Now this one's kind of nice. You can take the wing nut off, pull the entire canister out, and you can clean this filter out. You don't have to completely replace it every single
Air
time.
hose it or something.
Right, you can air hose and clean it that way.
And this is the Dicor. What they call now? What they call that? Rycor or what they call those?
Raincore?
Raincore, yeah.
Raincore, yeah.
You open up and they're paper filter, right? And there, I had to change one.
Right, this is basically your fuel water separator, fuel filter. It's really nice. This is just a toolbox for accessories.
Extra built.
Down below it are the 4 chassis batteries. Now it's important to remember on a bus chassis, it's a 24-volt chassis. So if you need to jump start the engine, this is where you're going to go to because you can't get access to the batteries. You have your positive post right there and your negative post right there.
Right next to each
Just
other.
remember it's 24 volt. If you hook up a 12-volt battery to it, you're not going to cause any damage. It's just a dead battery as far as the chassis is concerned. It needs 24 volts to start. The batteries themselves are maintenance-free, non-serviceable batteries. You don't have to worry about checking the water level on those.
AGM, right? I think usually.
So a unique feature on Liberty coaches, usually they give you 2 hookups for the shore cord, driver side or passenger side. So on this one right here, you have your main shore cord. Hidden right here next to your backup alarm is the switch for the reel.
There it goes, coming out.
Bring it in and out. Okay. Now, with buses, it's usually the best advice is to always plug into 50 amp service. They really need all that 50 amp service in order to operate completely. If you are going to be storing it, you can get away with going into 30 amp.
That's
But
about
it's
the
not
lowest you wanna
ideal.
go.
15 amp is not something that we'd really recommend. All right, so you want at least 30 amp as a bare minimum for storage, but 50 amp to live in it or to utilize all the functionality of it. To access this door right here, there is a tiny little release. That'll release it.
That'll be the power cord compartment, right?
Correct. And that'll just give you access to the reel in there. Now, when it comes to your awnings, your window awnings couldn't be easier. You're going to have a very long awning pole with a little hook on it at the very front. You're going to hook it on right there and you're going to twist it. That'll unlock the travel lock of the awning. Use that same tool to hook onto that strap right there. Pull it down. Put the strap down in there. Your window awning is deployed. So on the driver's side rear is going to be the radiator, also the transmission cooler and the intercooler. It's completely possible to service them just by hosing them off, resist urge to power wash them, or to use a brush on them. We don't want to damage the radiator. Just in front of that, using the Ford key, is going to be the Webasto heater. It's located right back here. This is what you're going to be using for your furnace and your hydronic or your domestic hot water. Now it's using diesel to burn diesel to heat up a coolant solution. The controls for it are going to be on the inside. There's going to be the filter for the Webasto heater. And the manufacturer is going to recommend that you service the burner at least once a year. What I would recommend is if you turn on the burner and you have a lot of smoke coming out right here, it's likely time for it to be serviced. That's going to be a new nozzle, new fuel filter, and to clean out the burner chamber. The other exhaust down here is just going to be the exhaust for your generator. Right above, very rarely will you be using any of these shut-off valves. This is going to be for more emergency settings for your engine coolant to bypass, usually in colder weather, things like that. Or very rarely, it's mostly for service access from a technician. Now right down here, you have another shore cord hookup. It uses the same 50 amp marine adapter that we would have had on the passenger side right there. You'll never use this. This is going to be your park phone hookup. Most parks don't offer that service anymore. Right here is going to be park cable TV hookup. Some parks still offer that, but it has nothing to do with cable internet. Don't hook up the cable internet right there. This is going to be the main maintenance bay or service bay that you're going to be using. Right here is your primary city water connection. This is where you're going to hook up to at a park or at your house. Now it does have a built-in water pressure regulator, so you don't have to worry about hooking one up to it already. But you'll just hook up the garden hose right here. Make sure you turn the valve on to allow the water to start flowing. Over here is going to be another one of those bong holes, but this is for the black tank. This is the wastewater tank. Really, you're only going to be using that for like cleaning and servicing the tank. All right, this is not the freshwater tank. Right here's your primary sewer hose connection. Has the same connector underneath right there. You're going to hook up to there, and right up here where it says port dump, there's your port side sewer dump. Again, it is air driven. Over here, Liberty, because they combine the black tank and the gray tank to extend the life of dry camping, or when you're out of parks, you don't have to keep dumping the tank because your gray tank is also feeding into the black tank. They have what's called the gray tank bypass. So about halfway up the tank, it'll start, you can see right here, it'll allow the gray tank water to actually drain off of the top. All the solids still fall down into the low part of the tank, but if you have the gray tank bypass open, it will literally just have the wastewater just at this level come off the top of it, and it just comes out the opening right there. That's the whole concept of the gray tank bypass, okay? It's not entirely sanitary, so you need to make sure you're understanding where you're using it. Don't use it at a RV park or a campground. You have another one that's called a macerator right here. That takes wastewater instead of going through the sewer hose right here. It has a little garbage disposal waste pump that'll pump the waste. And I want to say on this one, the outlet for it's on the passenger side rear. It looks like just a city water connection. You'd hook up a normal garden hose up to it. This is just what it sounds like. You can hook up a hose bib. You need to have a water pump turned on or hooked up to city water to hook up a hose right to there. Right here is going to be your main monitor panel to know how much water is in the freshwater tank, and this is going to be for the wastewater tank. This one that says alarm, very rarely will you use that. It would just be a warning if your gray tank or your black tank was full or if your freshwater tank was empty. It's kind of annoying. Otherwise, that's the macerator button. You can filter freshwater tank from this side too, the gray water bypass, and the port dump. Again, it's labeled right there if you forget everything I just said or if I said it wrong. Right here is going to be your onboard diesel generator. You have a lock pin located there. Just unlock it and a handle right there to pull it out. You can start it from the inside or you can start it from the outside. To start it from the outside, there's a switch way in the back right there. You just start it, push and hold the start button down. To stop it, go the opposite way with it. Right next to it is going to be your 110 circuit breaker. That off is the down position, on is the up position. If you're running the generator, you never get any power inside. Make sure that didn't trip. You want to service the generator about every 150 hours. The engine oil dipstick's located right there. There's a fuel filter. That's the oil filter. Just make sure that you lock it down pretty good before you drive down the road. Now, this motorhome is equipped with bus air. You have a little knob right here. No service whatsoever in this or the opposing side. This is just going to be driven by the engine with the auxiliary air AC compressor for what's called the bus air. So it gives you more cooling capacity when you're driving down the road. But again, this is service access only. One more thing. Right here, this is the motor that drives the slide out room. Again, just for your knowledge, if you ever need to manually extend the slide out room, once you deflate the seal and you follow the instructions on how to do that, then you can go ahead and run the slide out room in or out manually. There's a little X drive. You can use a wrench or a ratchet to move the room in and out. It takes a while to do that. I really only recommend you do that with a certified technician that knows what they're doing. You can cause a lot of damage if you do it incorrectly. Now, right over here, we do have a lot going on. This is the radiator for that generator that we just saw over right there. Again, just keep it clean, keep it cool, or out of the way. There is a fan that directs air across that, driven by the generator. When the generator is running, the fan will actually run over here. This is just the surge tank for the coolant for the generator. Back here is kind of the main electrical bay, and there's a lot going on back here. This first battery is labeled generator battery. That's the starting battery for that generator. Pretty straightforward. You should check the condition of that battery at least once every 6 months. This is going to be the hour meter, tells you how many hours are on the generator. You can start the generator from this point too. You can actually enable auto start. Now you can do all this from the inside too. And this is just going to be part of the generator controls right here. On Liberty, they call it the watchdog. Down below, unique to bus and bus conversions, because your generator is so big, you actually have more capacity than the bus uses. This is a buddy plug. So if you have a car hauler or a friend, they can actually plug into your outlet right here and run their motorhome or their trailer off of your generator. This is not driven by the shore cord at all, just the buddy plug for the generator. Over here, the two inverters. The inverters are the heart of the bus. Their primary function is as a battery charger. So when you're plugged in and run the generator, they get 110 power, and they'll start charging the house batteries and operate all the lighting inside. Their secondary function is their namesake as an inverter. So when you're dry camping and you're not running the generator and you're not plugged in, it'll take battery power and turn it into 110 power to power up nearly the entire RV. We'll cover that more on the inside when we get there, but these are basically the most important part of your RV. It's the heart of them. Otherwise, back here, maintenance bay, you have your house battery disconnects and your inverter disconnects for servicing. A whole bank of fuses right there. It's important to know on a Liberty, you have 24 volt on the house side and 12 volt on the house side. So don't just assume that all your light bulbs in there are 12 volt. Some might be 24 volt. And if you put a 12 volt light bulb in a 24 volt socket, you're going to burn out that light bulb pretty fast. But it is labeled right here, 24 volt panel and then 12 volt panel. The rest of this is really going to be service access. Don't ever touch any of this stuff back there. Your front storage bay works just like the other side. You can lift on it and it'll slide out that way. This is going to be the awning rods I was telling you about. We've got the hook on that side for deploying the awnings. Over here is kind of something really important to know about. If you're hooking up the shore power, if the pedestal you're plugging into doesn't have a breaker on it to disconnect it, because you do want to plug into a dead circuit or a dead plug before you plug in the shore power. Ideally at the pedestal, you just turn off the breaker, plug it in, turn the breaker back on again. But if it doesn't have that, turn the breaker off, plug it in, then turn the breaker on right there. Otherwise, you'll almost never use that. The other important thing to do right here, it says port inlet and cord reel. Remember I said you had the two different sides to plug into shore power? You have to tell it that you're using the cord reel or if you're using the marine plug-in. If you don't tell it that, you're not going to have power even if you're plugged in. Now this side door right here, you can also unlock it from the inside just by lifting up. It'll lock right there. Again, this is mostly service access for a technician for the rest of the bus chassis. Those are the similar circuit breakers as the back. There are some fuses related to the dash components located right here. This is a windshield washer reservoir. Kind of hidden right here is an important thing. That's an air hose hookup. So remember, your engine is your air compressor. You can hook up an air hose right there with the engine running. You can check all your tire pressures. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is get ourselves a little bit more room. We're going to put the slide-out room out. And to do that, we're going to have to start up the bus. It looks like a bike lock key, but this is the most important key to this motor coach. We need to have air pressure built up, and on a bus, we're going to have 3 air tanks. Up front, a rear, and auxiliary. Auxiliary is going to be for the slide out. And on this one, we have a lot of other features that use air, just like the sewer dump and the freshwater tank jump. So on the dash right here, you can hear the beeping with the red light. That indicates that the air tanks were not fully aired up past their safety levels, which is about 75 PSI. But we want to let it build up to about 120 to 125 PSI. To do that, we just go ahead and put the rabbit into high idle. That'll bring us up to about 1,000 RPM, so it'll allow us to build up air pressure a lot faster. All right, so on this 2002 Elegant Lady, it has one slide-out room on it. It's going to be the main front slide right here. You have this switch right here. It says slide open. Pretty straightforward. You're just going to go ahead and push it to the slide open. You hold it down the entire time. What it's going to do, it's going to deflate the seal that's around the slide-out room right here. So once that slide-out seal is retracted and out of the way, there's these lock pins on the side that will also retract, and then the slide-out room will start to move. All right, once you're done, go ahead and release it, and then it'll inflate that seal again. One of the tricks is usually what people will recommend is having the entry door window open or the toll window open when the slide out rim moves, because it makes such a good seal when it's going in and out, even with the slide out seal retracted. It helps allow a little bit of pressure differential on the air. To open up the toll window, you have a window switch right there, just like on a normal car. Now when it comes to the dash area right here, that's just going to be your headlights. So you have your running lights, headlights, hazard lights. This is going to be a radar detector. Likely is pretty obsolete at this point. Driver visor is pretty straightforward with all these switches right there for all the power visors. And then this would have been for the bus driver originally, their secondary visors. The rest are just going to be more like privacy shades. We've already covered the fast idle. The R with the gear around it is going to be for your engine brake. It's not a real engine brake. It's not a Jake brake or a exhaust brake. It's going to be an Allison transmission brake. So that will engage it right there in the up position. Right here is the selector. All the way forward is the least powerful. All the way back is the most powerful. Holding it back is going to be helping you slow you down. And all that's going to do when you let your foot off the accelerator, it's going to be using the transmission actually as a pseudo engine brake to help slow you down, so you don't have to ride your service brakes. This is going to be very important when you're coming down grade or if you're towing something. It's also kind of useful when you are coming off of a freeway on the off ramp. The nice thing about it is because it's not a engine brake or a Jake brake, you don't have to worry about municipalities that have no engine braking signs around, because it's not going to create a lot of noise. Very important to be using. Right down here, this one that says override. This is really only going to be used if your engine shuts off. Maybe you don't have oil pressure or high temperature, and maybe you're stuck on the side of a road and you need to move the bus. Otherwise, remember, when you override the safety shutoff on a bus, you are now taking responsibility for the damage to the engine. So in general, you won't ever be using that. Technicians will be using that. Mirror heat's pretty straightforward. It's going to be for your side mirrors. The docking, on the side of the bus, you have square or rectangular lights. When you have it in docking mode, it turns those on. When you have it in cornering, if you turn on the turn signal on the left side, it turns on those docking lights on the left side. Right, so turn signal right. Otherwise, you keep it in the middle position. Over here, there's just going to be the power window for the entry door toll window. There's going to be for the backup camera and for the, it's helped to rinse off the original camera. Over here is going to be your wiper control. Twist it for that function. Wash function is on the end. You push on it, and then the headlights for high beams, just like a normal high beam switch. An odd thing on this one, it's very difficult to see, but right down here there's this button. This is an air-driven steering wheel adjustment. I usually just use my foot. With that, you can adjust the steering wheel in and out and up and down. But unless you push that, the steering wheel is not moving. It's a very important thing to know for driver comfort. The dash layout's pretty straightforward. We've already covered the 3 air tanks. About 120 psi is where you want your tanks to be at all times. The most important thing to remember about when it comes to a diesel chassis with air brakes is air is absolutely vital. The big differences between a diesel and a gas motorhome is your brakes are driven with air pressure. You need air pressure for that. Your suspension is also driven by air pressure. And more importantly, you do not have a park gear in your transmission. So if your engine is not running, you are in neutral. So the most important thing to know about from anything that we're going to be learning about today is way back here is your park brake. Before you leave this driver's seat, it's absolutely vital you lift up on it to apply it. To disengage the park brake, you're going to push down on this. Just like that. Lift up on it. That'll apply the park brake. It comes with the transmission. It starts up in neutral right here. When you put it into drive, we have 6 because we have 6 forward gears. It's an automatic transmission. It'll start out in first gear, shift from first, second to third, all the way up to 6. If you're pulling something or if you're going up a mountain and you keep shifting in and out of overdrive, 6 being overdrive, you can push the down button right there. Now it won't shift past 5th gear. You can also use it in reverse, so if you want to shift the lower gears down a mountain, you can do that too. It's all automatic. N is for neutral, just like it says. R is for reverse. The other button over here, mode, they're calling it performance. Generally, it just changes the shift points on the transmission, but you'll almost never be using that. It's mostly for diagnostics on the transmission. Right over here is going to be your cruise control location. You turn it on right there. You set it, resume it, and decelerate. That's going to be part of the cruise system right there too. This one says drive and fog. You have a second set of headlights down low. You have driving lights or fog lights or off. This is going to be power mirror control. The left side is for your left mirror. If you point at the right one, that's your top small mirror. At the left one, that's going to be your main mirror. This is just going to be for the passenger side control. Slide control, we've already covered that. Right here is going to be your leveling control. Now on a bus, remember we talked about the air leveling or the air suspension. We're going to use the air suspension to help level the bus. So in manual mode, you just bring it to man right there. And now you can use these three levers right here, or these three buttons right here, to either raise the left rear, the right rear, or the front. So it's kind of like a tripod leveling. You either bring the front up or down, left, up and down right there. If we put it into auto, it'll use the computer to automatically level it. Now this is going to be important. The slide out won't work, I think, unless you're in road condition or all the switches are in the off position. If you go to operate the slide and it's just flashing, that means it's not working. It needs to be a solid light when the slide goes off. Otherwise, when you're driving down the road, you need to have it in road mode, which is the middle mode. That keeps you what's called ride height control valve mode, keeps you level to the ground as you're driving. The last little thing we did hint about with the tag axle is right behind your park brake. It's a little lever. This is your tag axle dump. So if you're trying to maneuver backing up or driving forward at slow speeds in tight confines or a parking spot, you can lift up that tag axle right there. You'll get a warning buzzer and an indicator on the dash right here. Just let you know that your tag axle has been dumped. You need to bring it back to the other position when you're driving normally. All that does is really take the downward pressure off the tag axle. It may not completely lift it off the ground like you see on dump trucks, but it allows you to maneuver a lot easier with the pressure off the tag axle. All right, so on the dash radio right here, if we go to the home button and we scroll down, we can find the camera option. Right there, we'll find the camera. Otherwise, it's going to work like a dash radio. With touchscreen interface, it's got Bluetooth connectivity. You can sync your phone up to it also. Right here is going to be your dash AC. This is run by the engine itself from the bus. Keep your fan speed located right there. Temperature is going to be located here. And then over on this side is going to be control for the bus air. You need to turn the AC on if you want to start making cold air. And that will be the temperature control for the bus air. And this will be for the actual dash controls. Now it's important to remember that on a bus, when it was designed and built, there was no passenger seat. It was all developed for the driver, for driver comfort and driver safety. So there's always going to be a little bit of airflow on the windshield to always make sure the windshield doesn't fog up and the passenger doesn't get quite as much airflow to it as normal. The driver is always more important. Down below there, this is just going to be your spotlight that's on the roof. You just turn it on right there and you can operate the controls with it here. Right behind the driver's seat, you have a whole bunch of push button controls. That's going to be lighting control. These are going to be dimmers for the ceiling lights. It is labeled port side, ceiling side. Now these have already been upgraded to LED lights from what they were before. And so you have a little bit of dim control on them. The passenger over here does have a little bit of control. This is going to be for more of the power shades again, that the driver has controls for too, but you don't have to go to the driver's seat for it. Underneath right here, there's not going to be too much for you to do under here. This is going to be for the satellite dish that's on the roof. That would turn that on if you were inclined to use it. This is going to be for the upgraded TV antenna. If you were watching over-the-air antenna, you need to turn the system on right there. You can initiate a search and it'll start searching the sky for the best signal, and if you want to, you can use those buttons right there to tune in a little bit better. But this is all under a dome. You don't have to worry about cranking it up or down. Right above your head, you have one of the 4 cruise air controls. We'll touch more on this in the hallway to try to make more sense, but basically you have 4 mini splits. You don't have any roof ACs on top of the roof. Your leather sofa is a power sofa, kind of hidden in the balance right here. It's going to be the switch to raise and lower it. It will lower into about a long twin. If you do have it all the way in the down position, it will not come up if anybody's sitting on it, so you do need to get off of it. Otherwise, it can be an adjustable seat too. On the opposing side right here, this is just going to be a manual jackknife sofa. it's going to be more of a standard twin, as that one's a little bit longer. Hidden behind this countertop right here is going to be your shade control. Now you can do each individual shade up and down with the buttons right there, or on the top right is going to be all open or close. Now on these are silhouettes, so in the all the way down position they should rotate around to be sheer for day. And if you want them to be night, you just have to jog them up a little bit to turn them off or to make them opaque. Pretty straightforward house controls. This is going to be the thermostat control for the Webasto hydronic heat for the front zone right here. It is labeled forward Webasto heat. You still have to turn the diesel burner on before this is going to do anything. So we'll touch more on that in the control center in the middle of the coach. Right behind this panel is pretty much the control center for the entire bus. This is going to be the inverter remote panels. We have one for each inverter. You'll just leave it in the on position right there. As soon as we were to unplug the bus from shore power or turn the generator off, it would see a loss of AC input and the inverter would turn on automatically. When you plug back in again, it switches from inverter mode back to charger mode. That's why you want to leave them on. Then you just have more dimmers for the ceiling lights back here. This is going to be your Crestron control, just like the driver had up there front. You can turn lights on and off from this point too. There's going to be the shore power. It tells you the voltages coming in and how much amperage you're currently using on each line. If I were to turn off the freezer right there, we should see a drop in amperage or current that's being used. Now, on 50 amp shore power, you have split phase on it, so they're calling it line 1 and line 2. It's important to know that this is your breaker box distribution panel for the 110. These are all 110 circuit breakers. The ones with red on it right here are the inverted circuits. So these are going to be ones that are powered up when the inverters are on and you're dry camping. When you're putting the unit into storage and you're not going to be using it for a while, it's not a bad idea to turn off components that you're not going to be using. And then down here is going to be 2 more of your cruise air controls. They all work the exact same way. Again, they're basically, think of them as mini splits. You have an inside air handler and an outside AC compressor or condensing unit. So these run on 110 power only, so you need to be plugged in and running the generator for them to operate. All you do is decide if you want to heat or cool. So if we want to do heat mode, we just turn it on heat. Set the temperature we want it to run to. So we want it to heat up to 75 degrees. It's going to take air in on this unit right there, and it'll come out at the top right there, nice and warm. Cool modes is going to be the exact same. Instead of being heat, you hit cool. It's a heat pump. It'll work in reverse. Now, the downside of heat pumps is that if once the outside temperature gets below freezing, they're not going to make hot air anymore, which is why we still have the Webasto hydronic heat. But you also will have some baseboard heat, I'll try to point out too also. Over here is going to be your monitor panel for the inside. They work just the same as they did on the outside. Your holding tank and your freshwater tank. Now in your main screen right here, you get to choose your AV input, your lights, your shade control. So you don't have to use that control next to the sofa. You can use this control also. And when it comes to sanitary. Now on the sanitary, you might be asked to input a code in order to operate it. On the dash control, it says sanitary security. That's your secret code. Don't tell anybody. That way you can operate it if you need to. Your last button that's important is going to be your doors. Your pocket doors are going to be air driven. Your engine is your main air compressor, but if your engine's not running, you don't have air compressor without that air compressor turned on. Now, possibly the most important one is going to be your generator. You can start the generator from the front, or you can start it from here too. Just hold the generator start for 4 seconds. That'll start the generator. If you enable auto start, what that will do is if your house batteries start getting too low, it'll automatically start the generator for you. Just across on this side is going to be your laundry center. There's not too much special things to know about it other than you need to push that button in order to open the dryer door. It can be frustrating. Otherwise, you turn it on. All the controls are going to be straightforward. Washer works like a normal front load washer. No door button you have to worry about on that one. Down at the footboard right here, or the toe kick right here, is one of your 110 or 120 volt space heaters. It's just a built-in space heater. If you turn that breaker on, that's at the hallway command center, you have a knob right here. You can set the temperature that you want to turn on or off on. It doesn't need 110 power or diesel heat turned on. Another important one, we already touched on the Webasto heat, is going to be climate. So we need to make sure the Webasto burner is turned on. What that'll do is turn the burner on itself. Once the burner turns on, it'll start warming up that hydronic fluid or the antifreeze that gets piped to all the little heat exchangers right there. Once you have good temperature, this thermostat's going to work and the heat's going to come from under the toe kick area. All the way to the left turns that thermostat off. If you are on this side and you forgot to shut the door, you have an air pocket door switch right there. Hidden in the hallway is going to be passage to the water closet. Now this has a Headhunter Royal Flush toilet on it. It has no moving parts. It just uses high velocity and high flow and a Venturi to move all the waste from the toilet bowl into the waste tank. There's just going to be a button on the side. It's just a touch button right there. That'll flush the toilet. You do need to make sure to have the water pump turned on and of course city water hooked up. If it flushes but no water goes down, that's a very good indication that your black tank is full and you need to stop flushing the toilet and go drain the black tank. When it comes to black wastewater tank management, we do recommend you put chemicals in the holding tank each time you dump the tanks. Put it in the black tank, just put it straight down the toilet right here. Toilet paper, we do recommend RV Marine style toilet paper be used down the toilet. And when you're at a park, you're more than welcome to leave the sewer hose hooked up to the dump port, but we do want to let the dump valve stay closed. We want the tanks to fill up at least halfway. That'll give time for the solids to be broken down, build up enough water pressure to help push everything out. If you leave the valves open, all the water will drain out of the tank, but all the solids will be left in the tank and build up over time. We don't want to do that. It's very important before you drive down the road to make sure your shower door is secured. You have a little loop right here. That'll allow you to slide the shower door back. If you don't secure it, this magnet may not hold it driving down the road and it might fall off and break the shower. When it comes to the shower controls, you think they'd be straightforward, but right here, this big lever, that's how you turn the water flow on. This knob on top is how you adjust the temperature. So it is important to know how to do that if you want to take a shower. So yeah, your roof vents have been upgraded to max air vents. Make sure the shower fan is turned on, and you're going to just use the remote right here. This should have a built-in vent cover, so you don't have to worry about it being open during the rain. And you just turn it off to close it up. Another switch for your pocket door to the bedroom. Hidden right here in your vanity control. You have these protected switches. One's for the pocket door, one's for the gray water bypass. We already covered that on the outside. And the last one's going to be for the bed lift. This is air driven. It'll lift up the foot of the bed so you can get underneath it. That's where you'll find your safe also. Moving all the way to the back here, we have more shade controls for the bedroom area. Your fourth cruise air thermostat control works just like all the other ones up front. There's going to be a touch screen that controls the exact same procedures as the dash area and of course the mid coach. More dimmers for the lights back here. And lastly, right here is going to be the home theater for the bedroom TV. Both surround sound system and the DVD player down below. There's just going to be the intercom. This intercom will go to, I think there's one at the toilet, one at the driver, and of course you can talk to the people out front. Usually it has a screen on there so you can see who's at the front door too. So on the Webasto, remember it doesn't just do your hydronic heat, it also does the domestic hot water. Now if you don't want to waste diesel fuel making hot water, just make sure that your water heater right there, if you turn that circuit breaker on, and if you saw the amperage jump up right there, that turns the 110 element on the water heater, so you don't have to worry about burning diesel fuel to make hot water. But you will still want to give it about 30 minutes to an hour to warm up the water to a nice comfortable temperature, and your water pump switch is going to be the circuit breaker itself. When it comes to the climate, you also can operate. I just turned off all the thermostats, so they won't work until I operate them again. That turns the 110 power on to those systems. So those have to be turned on for these to work. Back here in the bedroom, this is where the Webasto heat is for the bedroom area. Again, the Webasto heat has to be turned on, and you turn the thermostat that you want it to be. It's just a simple temperature selection up on top. All the way to the left is off. And then when it comes to the bus air, you may notice little grates in the backsplash along the windows right here. That's where the bus air will come out of. And again, the bus air is only going to operate if the engine is turned on and running and you have it turned on at the dash. You don't have a lot of control of it. It's just there to help supplement cooling when you're driving down the road. All right, I think with that, that's pretty much all the important controls you need to maintain your understanding of. Again, to bring the slide out room in, what we do want to do is make sure we have everything out of the way here, especially on your beautiful wood floor. Make sure we aren't going to drag anything across it. Start up the engine, make sure your air pressure is built up, and then we'll just go ahead and retract the slide out rim. We're just gonna hold the button down the whole time. You can see that one light is turned on. We'll hold the button down the entire time and don't stop until it's fully retracted. And this is probably the funnest part. Is to watch those lock pins go ahead and shoot back out again. Once it's locked down, you can go ahead, release the button, go outside, retract all your hoses, cords, shut all your compartments, secure everything, and you're ready to drive down the road. Beautiful 2002 elegant lady. It's really nice. I like it.